are highly welcome to another insightful tutorial, as always on this beautiful channel. It's been a while and trust you are good as I am. Today we'll be learning how to go about the making of this stylish skirts, and we are doing it professionally. At first I made this first one and I lost the video, so I had to shoot the video again, and this is what we have. So let's jump right into the tutorial. Let's first analyze the design at hand. For the front piece, we are going to have a basic skirt with waistband and without any form of dart. And having done this now, we are going to be having an over pattern, which we take it from the waistband this way, and it goes to the side this way. For the other over pattern, it will also take it from the waistline this way, then goes to the side. Then getting to the hemline, it will extend downwards slightly with about 4 inches this way, and it will take it from like so. So for the length now, we are having two measurements, 20 inches for the basic skirt and 24 for the over pattern. So that means the over pattern will extend just by 4 inches. So for the back piece, this is what we'll have. It will be a bandless, having a straight waistline, while the front will be slightly curved, lowered. In the back, of course, will have that because of the buttocks. The back will have zipper, and there's not going to be any form of slit nor vent because the length of the skirt is very short already. So let's move into the drafting. So for drafting, I'll be starting with the front piece, and here's my white drafting paper, which I'm going to be putting on fold. And for the folding is the hip circumference that will be guiding us. Hip measurement I'm working with is 40, so quarter hip measurement is 10. So I'll just be putting on fold about 11 inches thereabouts. So having folded, I'll pick my starting point, which is my waistline this way. And from the waistline, I'll be coming down first by 8 inches, which is my upper hip level. Then I'll measure 10 inches, which is my lower hip line. Then from the waistline, I also measure the length of the basic skirt, which is 20. So I'll go ahead now to square across all of these lines and do my proper labeling. So here we are, the waistline, upper hip line, lower hip line, and hemline properly drawn out. So I'll be starting with the waist measurement. On the waistline, I input quarter waist measurement. Waist measurement is 32, so quarter value is 8. And there's going to be band at the waistline. So the width of my band is 1¼ so I'll mark 1¼ inch downward this way. And I'll go ahead to square down like so. So for the center front, we shall be lowering the front of the skirt. So from the waistline, I'll just come down 1 inch for the front lowering. Then I'll simply connect this way so that the waistline is slightly curved, lowered. Then again, I'll pick the width of the band, which is 1¼ inch, 1.25 this way. Then I'll mark a different point, then go ahead to connect together like so. So this is the skirt waistband for the front. So having done this now, I'll do my labeling center, front, and side seam. Then I'll go to the upper hip line, measure quarter hip value. Hip is 40 inches, so quarter value is 10 inches. I'll take the same measurement on the lower hip line, then simply connect the upper and lower hip line this way. So this way now, there's not going to be any sharp angle, you understand? So I prefer to do my hip measurement this way. So I'll go ahead to connect with the waistline and try to through it to avoid any sharp angle like so. For the hemline, whatever it is that we have at the hip line, we just reduce by 1. So for the hemline, I'll just be simply measuring 9 inches, which is a reduction of an inch from what we have on the hip line. This to give the skirt shaping. You understand? So with this, we are done with the drafting of the front. I can go ahead now to simply cut out. And you can see the way I'm cutting it out. I did not really cut on the waistband. I actually cut at the waistline, the straight line up here like so. Can you see? Okay, so I'll be using the front piece now to cut the back piece. So I get another drafting paper this way. Place the front piece. and I'll secure with pin. Then the first thing I like to do will be to impute, to factor the dart for the back. The back will be having waist dart, so I'll be factoring the provision for the dart this way. So the width of the dart intake is going to be 1 1/4 for myself. This varies from person to person. So it's not at all time that your dart will be an inch, depending on the difference between the waist and the hip circumference. So you get your dart intake. So if you need more study on this, I'll be putting some links in the description box to check our previous video where all of this has been explained. So I'll go ahead now to impute 1 1/4 for my waist dart for the back, and I'll be coming down 1 1/4 for the width of the band, though the back is bandless, but we are drafting it more like a band. So from this point now, I'll simply connect with the upper hip line like so. And with this, I'm good to go now to cut the back piece out at this point. So I'll just go ahead to cut out this way. So having done this now, the next thing I would like to do will be to now lower the front. So I'll be cutting the front waistline properly now. So I just follow what I've marked out this way. And with this, back length and front length are not the same. So I'll go ahead now to also trace the upper and lower hip line to reflect on the back piece. And having done this, I'm good to go to removing the front piece. Then we can properly work on the back piece. I'm doing all of my markings this way. So for the waistline now, we are now going to be properly positioning the waist dart. So I get the midpoint of the waistline, then pick the length of my dart as 5 inches, then share the width of the dart on both sides of the dart leg. So for the hemline now, we are going to be tightening the center back. So I'll measure 1 inch this way at the center back, which I'll link up with the lower hip level. This is to tighten the center back and to give the back fitting. So I'll cut that portion out. So with this now, we are done drafting front and back lock. So I can go ahead now to cut off the waistband, because that's how the design is, and we are trying to replicate design just the way we have seen it. So here are the fabrics that I'm going to be using. This is the lining, which is about 20 inches, and this is polished fabric, which is non-stretching. So I'll go ahead to put it on fold and simply place all of the patterns. So here we are. I added 1 inch at the side and also at the hemline. And for the waistband, I actually had to double the fabric this way. So even for the back piece, I did the same, added my necessary sewing allowance this way. Remember when we drafted, we didn't put sewing allowances. So it's when you are placing on fabric this way that you go ahead to put your sewing allowances. So for the hemline, you could see my notching. So when I'm cutting my lining now, I'll start from the waistline, and the lining will be ending at the notch point. It will not be as long as the main fabric, so that I could use the lining to pull it upwards. So this is the way I cut the lining. Can you see this way? So at this point now, I'll be removing the front pattern so that we can go ahead to draft the over patterns. So the first thing I would like to do will be to attach back the waistband for the front. Then we'll go ahead now to draft the over patterns. So I'll put the pattern on fold and try to locate where originally one will have inputted that, but no, it's not having that. So I just try to get the midpoint of the waist this way, which is 4 inches. Then I'll go ahead to screw it down to the upper hip line. Then I'll be using my tracing wheel so that I can get that same line on the other side. This is just a guide for us to properly position the two over patterns. Do you understand? So I'll go ahead now following my tracing and just square and mark out the line this way. So with this now, I can properly determine the spacing between the two over patterns. So what I'll do now will be to measure about 3/4 on either side this way, such that the width of the spacing will be 1.5 inches. Do you understand this way? So with this now, we are good to go now to properly draw the style line, the shape, the width of each of the over pattern. For this side, I'll have something like this. while for the other side I'll need to first extend this basic skirt by about 4 inches. Then afterwards now I'm good to go to draw the design and the shape. You understand? So here we are. I've drawn out all the shapes, and what I'll do next will be to go ahead now to cut out each of these patterns, and I'll ensure that I do put my green line instructions. Very, very important. Afterwards now I shall put my fabric on fold, and I'll be cutting out the patterns, adding the necessary allowances, especially at the side seam, to ensure that it's the same with that of the basic skirt that we have cut earlier. So to commence sewing, we'll need interfacing, a very soft one like this one, and which I'd already gone ahead to fuse. And you see, the way I double the fabric will ensure that when it flips, it's the fabric that will still be showing and not lining. You understand? So now we are good to go now to commence stitching. So I'll make sure I stitch and I understitch and I press all necessary points. So having pressed now, I'll also make sure to trim off any excesses that I might have. And afterwards now, we are done and good to go with the over pattern. So for the front piece now, I've gone ahead to fuse interfacing at the hemline. So I'll turn it to the right side and place the lining over it. So be stitching the hemline first to attach the lining, and following the notchings, I'll pull the lining upwards. So for the waistband, I'd already fused interfacing on each of them, and which I shall be attaching on each of the lining and the fashion fabric this way. So here we are, hemline already well finished. Can you see? And pressed. And for the waistband, I'd attach on each of the fashion fabric and lining, and even the same pressed open. So with this now, we can go ahead now to place on the front piece the over patterns, which both of them are taking their forms from the waistband this way, from the actual waistline up. Can you see? So I'll go ahead now to ensure to secure them in place with pins. And you see, just with the fashion fabric, not with the lining. And you see, so having secured them in place now, I'll go ahead now to flip over the lining onto the right side. And you see the way I'm placing it. Then go ahead to stitch at the waistline. Then having stitched, I'll make sure to press open, you know, this way, and this is what we have for the front. The lining is not attached with the fashion fabric, and you see. So moving to the back piece, I'd also ensure to fuse interfacing at the hemlines, and just like I prepared the front piece, I'll go ahead to start from the hemline, attaching the lining and following the notches to pull it upward. Remember, the back piece is having that, so I also do where to construct my darts. So here we are, hemline already finished for the back pieces, and the dart has been constructed separately onto the lining and onto the fashion fabric. So the next thing I like to do will be to also fuse interfacing on the zipper allowances this way, and afterwards I'll be stitching the two sides together, leaving my zipper opening upwards, which I'll then go ahead to press open. So having pressed open the zipper opening, this is what we have. And here is my zipper, concealed zipper, or you call it invisible zipper, which I shall be installing this way. So having installed, here we are. This is what we are having like so. And you see. So the next thing I like to do will be to give the back waistline a bit of stability. So I shall go ahead again to fuse interfacing onto the back waistline. And for the lining, you can see that the lining is quite soft. So what I'll do to the lining will be to cut face out. And even for the face out, I'll ensure I fuse interfacing this way. And I'll just simply going ahead to be placing onto the lining like so. And for the hemline of the face out, I'll just fold and stitch on the lining like so. So this is what we're going to be having for the waistline of the fashion fabric afterwards. and this is what we'll have for that of the lining. So the next thing we'd like to do will be to finish up the waist line for the back piece. And to do this, I'll simply zip down at first, then I'll be flipping the lining to the right side of the fashion fabric this way. And I'll secure the fashion fabric and the lining together at the waistline, do my stitching, notching, under stitching and pressing together. And afterwards now I'll be using the lining to finish off the zipper region, and I'll turn everything to the right side. So here we are, zipper already installed and the lining has been used to finish it up this way. I hope you're loving it already. So we are done with the back piece. So it's time for us now to join the front and back pieces together at the side. So what I'll do will be to place right side of the front and back pieces together this way. And first ensure that I secure them together to aligning at the waistline. And afterwards, I'll pin them all round from the fashion fabric towards the lining this way. Can you see? So having done one side, I'll turn everything to the wrong side completely, and I'll do the same for the other side. And for this other side, I'll need to create a little bit of an opening, which I'll just be stitching this way and this way, leaving out that space. And it's from this opening now I'll be able to bring everything out to the right side after sewing. So here we are, I'm done stitching round and I've gone ahead to press open the seams, and here's that little opening that I left on the lining, and it's from here I'll just gradually be turning everything to the right side. When you are doing this, kindly take your time, do not drag the fabric too much so that the little opening will not get wide and your lining will not tear. Just take your time to bring it out this way. And when you are done, you do ensure to go and press everything again because it will have rumpled, your skirt will have rumpled. Can you see? So this is what we have. And even for the wrong side, let me turn it so that we can, fall in love more with the neat inseam finishing that we've been able to achieve here. Can you see? So for that little opening now, all I'll do will be to get my needle and thread, and I'll just carefully close up this professionally. You see, and when you are done now, it will not be obvious that there is any opening here at all. And if there's any need for adjustment, it is from this same opening you'll be able to gain access to the wrong side and do your necessary adjustments. And when you are done, do ensure to secure it this way and you cut the thread very close that it will not be obvious. Can you see? I'll recommend this type of professional inseam finishing for your ready to wear label, which will attract quality and paying clients to your brand and make them to keep coming back to you. So it's time for us now to spice up our skirts. So I'll be using this silver eyelet, and for the rope I've got this 1 inch velvet trim, which I'll be folding into two to reduce the width to half an inch, and in that way it will not have right side nor wrong side again. I'm sure you have learned a great deal from this video. Kindly give this video a thumbs up, and if you are yet to subscribe to this wonderful channel, kindly do subscribe and click on the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I upload new videos. So here I am now test fitting the skirt, and you can see that it actually came out very well. Kindly ignore the stomach, don't look at that tummy at all. Just look at the skirt, the feet of the skirt that we just made. Can you see? Even though I'm not even having as much hip as the person in the picture, mine also came out very well. Are you loving it? Welcome back. For more details on how to make different skirts with neat finishing, I recommend our skirt sewing class. Kindly contact me on my WhatsApp number. Until my next video, thank you for watching. Bye for now.